Our family cabin in central Minnesota may be squarely in Squatch territory, which is pretty terrifying, but at least it's not in Dogman country. And today we have 3 more Dogman stories that just cement my personal fear of this particular cryptid. Welcome to the InBetween, where we tell stories of the strange and mysterious. But before we dive in today, I want to let you all know that there seem to be some very strange but amazing things happening to viewers who hit the like button on my videos. So I got to share this. Check this out from Artemis Nectar 7. I hit the like button and won free pizza forever. Free pizza! Or this from The Trickery. As soon as I hit the like button, my scoliosis straightened out. Holy crap! Who knew there was magic in the like button? So we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments what crazy, amazing, magical thing happened to you when you hit the like button on one of my videos. The best comment will be pinned and featured just like these in an upcoming video. And now, on to our stories. A woman, we'll call her Vicky, had an encounter with a dogman in April of 2016. But the trouble actually started a few days before the main event. She and her husband Todd had lived a completely normal life in their current house for about a year. Now, their location is pretty rural, but they do have a few neighbors within shouting distance. They have 33 acres of mixed forests and fields with lots of thick brush. Life was pretty idyllic until that week. This particular week starts with their cat, an indoor cat, accidentally getting out and disappearing without a trace. The cat has escaped before, but it usually sticks around the house until they find it. On Tuesday night, Todd is outside in the yard when he notices that everything is silent. Totally creeps him out. But that's the extent of it. Wednesday, however, is a different story. Todd takes their dog up into the woods to look for the cat and just feels very anxious and uneasy. The dog keeps tucking its tail, turning around, wanting to go home. And it's not like their dog or him to feel uneasy in the woods. They love the outdoors and nature and usually feel right at home. On Thursday, around sunset, Todd again takes the dog around to the back lot where the yard meets a big wooded hill, when suddenly something takes off from the thickets at a sprint from the top of the hill and comes crashing through the woods down the hill straight towards him. He always carries a sidearm when he's out and is normally not afraid of anything. But this time, whatever this thing is, it's big. And he actually turns around and runs back toward the house, terrified. When Todd gets back to the house, he stops and looks back to see what it is that's coming. But whatever is charging stops right after he stops, still within the tree line, and doesn't make another sound. After waiting for a few minutes for the animal to show itself and feeling a little wimpy for running, he gives up and goes inside. He tells Vicky what's just happened and says, "I know what big game sounds like, and whatever that thing is, something about it is just not right." The following day is when her encounter happens. It's nearly dark, and Vicky's just coming home from visiting her parents. She has their 2 young kids with her. One is 2 and one is 11 months in the Jeep when she pulls in the driveway. Todd is working late, so it's just her and the kids. As soon as Vicky gets out of the Jeep, she feels creeped out. It feels different outside. There are usually lots of frogs and crickets making lots of noise, and even the birds usually chirp until an hour or more past dark. But tonight, there is no sound. It's a really warm evening, so the frogs should be in full chorus, but they're not. Now, usually, Vicky would get the 2-year-old out of the car and into the house before going back for the baby because it's really hard to carry both of them at the same time. But tonight, something is telling her not to do that. She needs to get both kids in the house as quickly as possible. With her keys in her hand, Vicky grabs both kids, one in each arm, and carries them both towards the front of the house. She reaches the front porch, climbs the steps, and sets the 2-year-old down so she can have a free hand to open the front door. As soon as she turns her attention back to the front door, it happens. Somewhere to her left comes a sound that will forever be seared into her memory. It starts low and slowly increases to a moderately low growl. It is deep-toned, very guttural, and sounds really pissed. Vicky is familiar with the different sounds of the animals that live around their home, and to her, this growl sounds canine and continues for what feels like an eternity, but in reality, it's probably only about 10 seconds. She is so terrified that her hands start shaking and she's fumbling with her keys and can't unlock the front door. She feels like she's in some 80s horror movie and is sure that the growling creature is going to attack her and her kids at any second. The porch they're on goes on about 5 feet to the left, where it then drops off to about 100 feet of grass to a shed and then the edge of the tree line. The growl sounds like it's coming from just off to her left, just off the edge of that porch. But she cannot bring herself to look out of fear at what she might see. The growling sounds so close and either at or maybe even above her eye level. Standing on the front porch, from her head to the ground is approximately 9 feet. The sound is not human, and it seems to be amped up or mic'd up because it seems so powerful. It's not a loud growl, but it seems unnatural. Trying to control a level of fear that she has never known, Vicky is still desperately trying to get the key in the front door when the growling starts to change. To her ever-growing horror, the canine quality starts to seemingly melt into gruff, reverberating, audible words. What she hears as clear as day is, "You can't get in," in a mocking tone, making her feel like prey, making her entire body freeze, and making her hands drop her keys. After a moment of suspended animation, Vicky fires back into action, grabbing her keys, jamming the key into the door, and opening the door to the house. She pushes her daughter, who seems thankfully oblivious to what's going on, through the door, rushes in behind her carrying her son, slams the door, and does not look outside again. Vicky spends the next few minutes calming down before calling Todd to let him know what's happened. She then spends the next few days trying to absorb what has happened. Unlike Todd, who has listened to every episode of Dogman Encounters Radio, Vicky had never been a believer. And even though she never actually saw what terrorized her because she just couldn't look, she believes now, and it has changed her entire world. This story was submitted anonymously, so we'll call him Andrew. On a stormy night in the summer of 1987, Andrew, who was 17 years old at the time, found himself alone in the family's trailer in a rural area outside of Sierra Vista in Cochise County, Arizona. His parents have taken his little brother and sister to Tucson for the day, leaving him in charge of taking care of their horses, dogs, cows, and chickens. The monsoon rain is raging, with thunder and lightning illuminating the dark sky. Andrew knows from experience that monsoons come in waves, so he waits patiently for the storm to pass. Andrew's getting ready to settle down and watch a good movie when all of a sudden the two dogs outside start going nuts and won't stop. He cannot get them to calm down. They've actually been acting up for the entire past week, which Andrew attributes to some coyotes that he's heard howling lately. So he gets his dad's 30-30 and a bullet in case he has to shoot to scare off a coyote or kill it if it's rabid. Andrew rests the loaded rifle near the wall by the back door and turns on the floodlights outside the trailer. The rain has just stopped, so he looks out the window near the front door and sees their 2 horses and cow staring in the same direction that the dogs are barking. And he thinks, well, maybe they're scared of the coyotes too. As Andrew gets closer to the back door, he hears his dogs whimpering and crying. Now he's thinking, well, maybe it's a whole pack of coyotes. He puts a few more bullets in his pocket, thinking that he can load them if he doesn't like what he sees. He grabs the rifle and opens up the back door. His 2 dogs beeline rush right past him to the center of the trailer and hunker down in the kitchen. Mud is everywhere on the floor, and Andrew is ticked because now he's got to clean it up. He closes the door again and goes over to the dogs to try to herd them back outside, but they will not budge, and they just squirm out of his arms when he tries to grab them. They are terrified. Now Andrew's really pissed at the coyotes and grabs the rifle to either go run them off or kill them. The trailer sits on a foundation of blocks with a small set of stairs leading up to both the front and the back doors. Andrew, who is 5'6", opens the back door and looks out into the darkness. He sees nothing at first, but just as he's about to step out, he sees a set of eyes looking back at him out of the darkness. From the top of the trailer to the ground is somewhere around 7 feet, and the eyes looking at Andrew are level and square on. He steps out and raises the gun, thinking it must be a coyote on the small gravel hill across the yard or a bird on a mesquite bush right next to it. But then he thinks, wait a minute, it was just pouring a second ago. What kind of bird would hunker down in a mesquite bush? And why would a coyote be out in a downpour? Andrew raises the rifle and draws a bead on the eyes when lightning lights up the night. The lightning illuminates the small gravel hill and the mesquite bushes. The flash is quick, but it's long enough for him to see there's nothing on the gravel hill, and no birds are in the mesquite bushes. Suddenly, it hits him. Whatever it is, if it's not standing on the hill, then it's really tall, and it's still staring at him. A sense of dread creeps over him as he realizes that the 30-30 that he's holding has only 1 measly bullet, and if he misses, there's no way he's going to be able to reload before that thing will be on him. He keeps the gun pointed at it as he slowly opens the door behind him, retreats into the trailer, and slams the door closed again and locks it, knowing full well that this trailer would never withstand whatever it is that's out there should it choose to attack. Andrew runs around the trailer and turns on all of the lights in the house. He grabs the bullets, a 30-06, and a .22 rifle and goes into the kitchen with the dogs. He loads each rifle, hugs his dogs, and prays that whatever it is, it'll go away and not attack. He stays awake the whole night until his parents get back in the morning. Andrew and his dad immediately go outside to check for any signs of coyotes, but whatever it was has vanished. The following story was submitted anonymously, so we're going to call this couple Ted and Jill. Now, sometime in either 2008, 2009, Ted and Jill have kind of fallen on hard times and are currently living with Jill's mother, Ellen, and her stepfather, Roger, in Fannin County, Georgia. But to say that Ted knew the area is an understatement. Ted grew up only about 2 miles from there and loved spending time in the woods, and still does. The Cohutta National Forest was his playground growing up, and it's not unheard of for him to disappear for a few days in the woods now and then. On this particular day, Ted, his wife Jill, and Jill's mother Ellen are coming home from shopping, driving on Highway 2 in Ted's dad's F-150 truck that has a brush guard on the front. It's dark out and it's getting pretty foggy, and Jack's River is on their left about 10 yards off the road. They're about 250 yards from their turnoff, and there's a sharp curve to the right. As Ted takes the curve, he sees there's something on all fours in the middle of the road, and he has no choice but to hit it. The truck goes completely over the animal, and they all hear the thud. Ted stops the truck, both to check on the animal to make sure that it's not suffering and to check the truck for damage. The truck seems okay, but when he looks at the creature, it just looks strange. He gets back in the truck and he turns it around so he can see it with the headlights. The creature is black, but it's not a regular black. It's as if the black absorbs the light, and Ted still can't make out what kind of animal it is. It looks to be about the size of a young bear, maybe 200, 250 pounds, and it's clearly dead with its head twisted back with a broken neck. The creature has blue, glassy eyes and long, curved claws with teeth that are all curved back and sharp. Ted didn't want to alarm the women, so they just head home. The next morning, Ted grabs his .30-30 and a .357 to go take a look at the area where he hit the whatever it is. However, it's gone. There's nothing there. No blood, no fur. Only the impression in the grass where it had been the night before. Ted looks around a bit and can see that something big came along and carried it off into the woods. He can see a trail where something has walked into the woods. So he goes back to his truck and gets his hiking bag. It's only got a few essentials for a night or two in the woods, like a tarp, a wool blanket, a couple of quarts of water, and a little bit of food. But he puts the pack on and heads into the woods to track whatever this thing is. Ted never sees a clear track, only signs like a broken stick or overturned leaves or disturbed rocks. But he tracks it for about 2 miles to a field that's about half a football field in size. He tracks it right to the middle of the field, and all signs disappear. He searches all over the field and its perimeter, but there's no sign of it coming out of the field, only going in. This has Ted totally stumped. So he gives up and starts heading back to the truck. However, when he gets back to the edge of the field, he gets a very bad feeling in his gut. So bad, it almost doubles him over. He stops and collects himself for a short while, then tries to head back to the truck again, but the feeling persists. Now, Ted is super familiar with this area, so he knows where he is in comparison to the roads in the area. So he decides on a different plan and heads in the opposite direction toward a friend's house about 5 miles away. And he finally gets out of the woods just before dark. Once he finally gets to his friend's house, he tells his friend what happened. And his friend says, never go in that field again. It is cursed ground, a place of wishes and dark magic, and people have gone missing after going to that field. Ted doesn't know what he saw that night, and he doesn't know if the legend of the field is true, but he does believe there is something strange in those woods. Oh man, to me, the thought of Bigfoot is scary, but Dogman is just terrifying. But if you still want more, feel free to click on this binge-worthy playlist right here. Be careful out there, and we will see you here again on the In-Between.